This is a crazy memory. It takes me back to an SNL sketch of, I think there was a terrible disaster. I forget what it was. I think it might be a Downey sketch.
Oh,
there was a terrible disaster.
He's the king of
a Jim Downey sketch. And what happens is all the A-listers are gone, have been wiped out, and so the B-listers have been elevated. It's just a bunch of agents trying to figure out who the new A-listers are. But I remember there was one part where like Charlton Heston is on an a capsized boat and he's hitting people with oars, I think. I don't know. I
love that. Yeah, Downey was always the guy that would come up with a sketch that you were like, oh, really? We're going to do this? Yeah, he was always the guy that I would be like, so you want me to do this? Really? He's like, yeah, it'll be great. Everybody will laugh. Like, oh, God. Okay, I hope so. But yeah, he was, well, and then, the sketch I always think of that I wish that so many people have told me about, Dana Carvey told me about, and everything, was Giant Businessman. That was the Jack Handy one.
Yeah.
About the...
Jack Handy was, he had the office next to the one where Greg Daniels, Bob Odenkirk, and I had an office, and Robert Smigel would come back there all the time, and the bunch of us would just work on things together. And Handy had the office next to ours, and we of course would stay up like 3 nights in a row, and Jack Handy would come in and he'd put in, it's like he worked at a bank or something, he would put in 8 hours, and he'd type, and you'd think, well, okay, we're staying up 3 nights in a row, and then his stuff at rehearsal
would be like
unbelievable. But Giant Businessman I loved.
Giant Businessman was just Phil Hartman as a giant businessman inside a small, so it was him inside a small like apartment set.
Yeah.
And he's like this, and it's like, Pardo, and now the adventures of Giant Businessman. And then it was him, and next door are people, a band playing like loud, and then he can't concentrate. So then it cuts to him, and he's like in the hallway, and he has to like crawl on his knees. He's like huge, barely fit in the hallway, and he taps on the door with his finger, and someone answers the door, and he's like, and Giant Businessman goes, "Excuse me, can you please turn your music down?" And the friend goes, "No, and if you ask us again, we'll kick your ass." And then it cuts to him back in his apartment. He takes up a tiny telephone, and he goes, "Hello? Witness Protection Program?" He says, "This has been the adventures of Giant Businessman." So the fact that he's a giant and the fact that he's a businessman has nothing to do.
No. And then he could step on these people.
That he could step on them, and then he got scared. And so many people, Al Franken and Downey and Dana and everybody go, I remember him doing it at the table, and they said that was the biggest laugh that they had heard at the table. That it just kept going into the next sketch where people were like, wait, what? Will Forte was like that. He had that sketch, Potato Chip, that people talk about sometimes, and that was like at the table read, it said, the script said potato chip. And then Lauren reads the stage direction, and Lauren went, "Open on NASA." And we all died. Because we're like, what? It's called potato chip. Open on NASA. And we all fell over. Yeah. I mean, Will Forte, I don't know where, he's like one of those guys, like him and John Solomon, when they get together, it's like they don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's just very genuine. And
yes, yeah.
And he doesn't, when you would write with him, I would be laughing hard, and he kind of wouldn't be laughing. He would kind of look at you like, yeah, so, and then he would say the funniest shit I've ever heard, but it didn't, he's like, no, these are jokes, and we'll put them together, but I always admired that, because he never would try to put on or anything. He was just genuinely.
It came from a really pure place.
Yeah, very pure place. Yeah, I was always impressed with that.
Well, we've tapped out. We've gone. I mean, you've given us much joy. You've also given us some reality, which I, of course,
ignore.
Talked about people losing their homes, and I made it, about how I don't. Those really good sneakers.
Okay, yeah.
You can see it from my point of view.
Now I get it.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
You get it.
Oh,
Okay.
No, but you know what I mean. The ones with the really good arch support.
Just you and a Ralph's going, Betty Crocker. Who the hell is Betty Crocker?
Why is this so inexpensive?
My God. Ashes.
Someone carry me out of here. 9 people with me, carry me away. I think about you from time to time because you're obviously one of the funniest people, certainly I've ever met, but you're also, you're a very sensitive person and you're a really sweet guy. And I like it when we get to hang out.
Yeah,
and
man.
I'd like to hang out more and maybe try and riff a little less and find out how you're doing. Like, how are you?
No, man, but that's good though. It's like it always gets around to that.
It gets around.
It always gets around to that, and you always give me great advice. And the thing I always feel like, because it became like a big thing for me. It's it's a whole cottage industry. Like you mentioned in an interview, like, oh yeah, I suffer like really bad anxiety and depression and stuff. And then it becomes like a whole thing where now it's like I would do interviews and I'm like, Google my name and anxiety. You'll see everything I have to say about it. You know what I mean? And depression and all that. Yeah. But when I talk to people like, you or Marty or these other, people I admire so much for so long, and you guys, we talk about it and stuff. And you guys have been so great at listening and giving me great advice, and so I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
man.
It's good just to know that it is also. I mean, everybody. So many people out there who, in all walks of life, have this issue, but it's also particularly an occupational hazard.
Oh yeah,
in the comedy world, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
but
it's something where
it's the flip side of the coin.
Yeah, totally. And I think I've just gotten to this place though, where it's like kind of for the first time in a healthier place. I mean, it's nice seeing Ali, my girlfriend, who's does stand up but is like a very solid person. Like she makes breakfast for her kids every morning, makes dinner, she's home. It's like her priorities are so dead on. And I'm like, wow, you can be really funny, really smart, and do all the cool stuff and still have that, be a person, a human, so that's been helpful.
Oh,
this is not sad. No, I'm just
Jesus,
now I'm thinking I gotta start making food.
Oh, you need to do a lot more than that.
I know.
What do you want? All right, what does everyone want for breakfast? No! Eggs Benedict! Toast made it! You will get Honey Nut Cheerios. Dry Honey Nut Cheerios.
I love this version of me. Because it is me, just with that different accent. God
I'm
bless
the mayor
you.
of Amalfi.
My house largely unscathed.
Largely unscathed. As usual.
Bill Hader, God bless you.
Thank
you
guys.
for being here.